welcome to Ad Bits, and let's get into it. Where are you from, and how did you first find your way into editing?
So I'm from North Wales, tiny little town in North Wales, and I got into editing. In hindsight, I started it really early on in my bedroom, but like with software that wasn't really for that at the time. Like I would make what I thought was like sort of cutting stuff together on PowerPoint. So I'd do like sort of mini animation movies and stuff like that in my bedroom on like an actual stationary computer. And then I started sort of doing like Windows Movie Maker stuff from like old DVDs and stuff like that. So like I've been doing it for longer than I even thought that I knew what it was or that it was a job. And then I trained to be a dancer most of my life, but then ended up sort of moving out of home quite early on as like an early teen. And so it was like, I need a job and I need to, sort stuff out. So I went and did a BTEC at college in media. So I did a little bit of everything there, but my tutor sort of was like, it would be like the end of the day, and they'd be like, Beth, you need to leave now. Like it's over. Like we've done all our teaching for today. Like you need to go. And I'd just be sat there tip-tapping away on the computer, and my whole day would have gone. So it's like the only thing that I ever feel like has ever been able to put me in a flow state.
So back to flow, I'm interested, what's the flow state and how you describe it? Because as you were talking and you were saying you were at college and you were suddenly getting to the zone and the day would go away with you.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting observation that, that's what you do in editing, isn't it? That's literally what you're doing. Because from other people who are not editors, I get that from doing things like this, and I understand that flow state, which I think is really interesting because you're just so engaged.
100%.
Everything's there, but editing specifically is so unusual to other people because we're sitting in your edit suite, and this is like classic edit suites everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a nice window, good size, better than some, better than most.
A lot better than most.
A lot better than most. But the point being is, it's sitting in a room, and you need to sort of engage in that flow state, otherwise you go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people think. I mean, I think there's a thing as well where a lot of people think that editing is like isolating, and it is, but in a sort of commercial standpoint, I think I find I have people in more than I'm on my own. Especially with changing schedules and stuff now. But yeah, I think the flow state thing for me was something that obviously I figured out in hindsight, and it's beautiful that I just sort of navigated down that path and was like, I'm going to go and do this thing because I really enjoy it clearly, and because other people kind of pointed it out to me and was like, you clearly must enjoy doing this, otherwise you wouldn't be like this with it. And I think it's interesting now because like I recently been diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And I always thought that I was on the spectrum, but I finally actually like have the diagnosis now. And I think that's part of it as well, where like having something that puts you in flow state when that's the way that your brain works is even more important. And it also like is a bit of I guess at some points has been like very much one of my hyperfixations.
It's interesting you mention your diagnosis because I know so many people in our industry who have exactly that.
Yeah.
And whether they're aware of it or not,
100%.
They found their flow state, I imagine. And there's certain jobs within the industry which are much more, what's the word, not relevant, or they're more specific to that
100%.
to that diagnosis. So editing,
and better suited, I think, as well. I think people think that it's kind of like
a negative, a disability, but it's not.
I think it's not
because the fixation is so specific.
Yeah, and I think also like the sort of way that you're like on and then very off in terms of this of your schedule and your life. Obviously, that can be a little bit tumultuous, and it is anxiety inducing being a freelancer like that. But it does actually, I think, benefit the sort of cyclical burnout that you get from it. And I don't think I'd have been anywhere near as successful doing any other job for the reason of the way that the job is structured.
So you've mentioned your success there with this diagnosis, and the way you perceive the world, and obviously with this flow state, which I love that terminology.
It's like the perfect thing for me to explain it. It's the only way I think I can feel like I can explain it to its like truest form of how it feels to me.
And so just on that, just if we talk about that a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
How specifically what does the being on the spectrum, for example, add to you? I don't. Is it the right word to use? The language is that the right language to use? But how does that enable you to? Is it the concentration? How does that enable you to edit better, for example? Specifically, is there any way to describe it like that, or is it just you love it so much, you're so focused?
I think it's kind of all of that. It's all kind of an amalgamation of things.
I don't know anything about. If you're speaking to someone who knows nothing about this or no understanding of that.
I guess I'd explain it more from an emotional standpoint then, I guess, like, where it does feel like something that you love that much and that you really care about that much, and you get, it embodies you, which can be like a bit of a, not necessarily a bad thing, but like, unless you're good at managing and have tools to like navigate having intense feelings, it's difficult to detach,
especially in a commercial sense. So
100%.
People are like, we don't. I mean, I can only imagine just on that point that a client comes in with a certain thing, or whoever you're working for in a commercial reality says, we want to do these changes. It must be difficult to when to pick off and to say, to not fight for this and not fight for 100%.
That. I think it's something I've massively learned being at Tenthree and talking to Billy a lot. About learning when to sort of let it go from your side, when is the right time to just go, okay, I can still do a really good job here, but I have to detach from this now.
It's theirs.
It's
not mine.
But also it's like, it's always been theirs. I think a lot of people forget.
In our industry everyone forgets.
That it's not yours.
Yeah.
And I think for me as an editor, like, it's always my approach of like, when someone walks into the room, the first sort of thing that I try and discuss with them is like, I think rallying through what went wrong and the trauma of like a really shit shoot day, or any of the actual politics, because then it helps me know better to find better solutions that collectively help everybody. It's like trying to find that balance to navigate everyone's position in it, which is quite a difficult job to do, because you are just trying to keep everybody happy at the same time whilst also producing a really beautiful piece of work
that you're happy with.
Yeah.
And your passion enables you to deliver.
100%. But I think a lot of people do forget it's I would say
an advert. It's a commercial. It's literally it's an ad. On that point you're making, it's not just you. Everyone forgets. And I was just going to say, it's really insightful to understand that.
Yeah, 100%.
Because so many people don't.
Because I think it's something that came out of the fact of me not knowing that I was dealing with it, but I definitely, having ADHD suffer with RSD. So I used to get really upset about losing jobs, and also really upset about feedback, like internally to myself. And so it was something that I had to like work out tools to get through and navigate in a different way. And I think that's one of the main things, was like properly getting, this is talking from like early me starting my career up to like really actually becoming an editor. But I think it's knowing that like, as much as you put a lot into the work, you are a separate thing from the work itself.
Yes.
And being able to navigate that, I think, especially as people who care so much about the craft, and it feels like, everyone thinks that like filmmaking is magical, and it is, and it's all those things, and that's amazing to feel like that. But like having that sort of separation, I think, is the main thing that helped me navigate it, and also make sure that I'm doing what's best for a project, because I have to consider that there's so many moving parts to it that have made it even possible to get to land on my desk.
Yes.
Well, for me to then add to it is mega, but I say it's like, it's not my baby.
It's also, it's having, someone said this the other day which really resonated with me, which was it's having empathy for the process and the people's journey.
Yeah.
For the, as I said, the script has come up with the original idea, and then it goes through a massive process, and that can take a year
before it even
gets, and then it goes, and then it gets delivered to a production company to create.
Yeah.
And then you've got all of those politics going on around that.
Yeah.
And then and then you get it at the end, and then you edit it out, obviously. But it's I think you're lucky to have that insight, because I think lots of people constantly forget that it's about that. Editors going into edit suites with directors who lose sight of that, get too precious about their work to the point where they're abrasive for the wrong reasons with clients.
Yeah. But it's my job to help them navigate that as well.
Yes.
I feel like it's my job to help them navigate that, because my loyalties are always going to lie with the director, really. But at the end of the day, you have to consider every moving part, and also you have to consider that they might have got on with the client really well at the beginning, and you want to maintain that relationship for them. And it's learning when to let go for yourself is also not the same time as the director, but helps you navigate when it's right for them to let go as well, and then giving them the time to give them something that they're really happy with, that you can have for your reel, that then gives them an opportunity to walk away and do something slightly different for the client.
Amazing. Was there a moment or project early on that made you think, this is what I want to do? I mean, you mentioned you were at college, the teachers were saying, like, you need to go now.
Yeah.
You mentioned their influence on you, saying, you want to do this, but you also sort of touched on it before, you sort of, because you found this flow state. Was it that?
It was always kind of accidental that I fell into it and figured it out. Like, I'm talking in hindsight, I suppose. But I think it was a lot of that, and then I think there was one job that I did that I was like, oh, I've really missed cutting like this, and it felt like quite a challenge, and it kind of reminded me that I was like, oh, I actually like really enjoy this, and it was a music video, and I'd not done one in a while, but it was with Anthony Byrne, and it was for Hosier, and it was like, my timeline was like a monster, because there was so many takes, so many cameras, and it was kind of like a really elevated live session, and it was, you have sometimes in jobs you get like sections of it where you cut it and you go, yeah, that's cool, and like having that is so rewarding when also someone else sits there and goes, yeah, that's fucking sick. Like, Anthony was so happy with it, and especially like certain sections of the video where like I know I'll watch it back in like 3 or 4 or 5 years time, and I'll go, that was really well cut, that bit. And that's really rare, I think, as an editor, to be able to sit there and have those moments, because you're so critical. Like, there's nothing really that I've put out that I'm like, that's 100% bang on, like in hindsight. But you're always going to feel like that, because I think that's the nature of like what it is to be an editor. You're always going to go, oh, and I could have maybe done that, or oh, because perspective's everything in it as well. But I think anytime I've had those moments, I sort of relive it a bit and go like, oh yeah, no, this really is for me, which is, yeah, nice.
Next, career and craft. This is the section. You've cut work that's picked up British Arrows, Clios and Eurobest. What does an award actually mean to you?
This is going to be controversial.
Do you think it's like, whatever?
To me personally, an award means a hell of a lot.
Oh, good.
I think it really is like a sign that other people also kind of go, oh yeah, no, you are good at this thing that you do. I think it's really hard having been a judge and been part of judging sectors to still feel that fully, being on the other side of how certain judging panels and things work. I think awards are important. Don't sort of disagree with any of it. You know, getting the British Hour sort of changed my career trajectory massively, and I think that's really important that things like that still happen. I think it's a little bit more nuanced and complicated though, because I feel like the judging's so difficult and also not what I expected it to be. So I think it's not as simple as, I really like this job, this is a really great edit. And I think it's a shame that there can't be a way to sort of, you know, it's complicated how it's all set up, but I think it's a shame that it couldn't mean that a little bit more than it should.
Do you want to expand a little bit on that? But I can feel it's a controversial. It feels controversial. We're going into a territory. Yeah, it feels.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm being a little bit too politically correct. I think.
What do you think? I mean, you know, there's lots of people doing it. It's happening all the time.
Yeah, I think.
How could it improve? Or what would you like to see? To be, like you said, is chosen on very specific merits.
I think this is hard to answer. I think I have found that actually, and including certain awards I've won, it has felt less about craft and more about popularity.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I understand that that's super like nuanced and difficult to judge. Like that's why it's very hard for me to give a solution to a problem that's so like that. And also, there's nothing wrong with being rewarded also for being like well liked, but that's not what we should be sort of talking about when it comes to craft awards. And
that's it's an interesting observation. And how would you improve that? Would it be, for example, do you just have editors judging editing? Because did you find that it's got a wide and varied selection of judges?
Yeah.
Specifically on the basis of popularity, not popularity, let's say, but anyway, you get a wide selection of judges from wide varied backgrounds.
Yeah.
Do you feel it should be?
That's the thing
that's
as well.
The challenge.
I think it's like getting the right voices to be on the panels.
That's interesting.
Not just have people say, "I'd like to judge this year," and then
which there is a lot of.
You just get a go to do it, which is fine. Like I've gone and I've asked to do, but I think I'm quite, and I think maybe it's the autistic nature of my brain, but I'm quite moral about the functionality of things, and so.
I was just about to ask about maybe it's to do if someone's on the spectrum that may add to this.
Yeah.
Again, there's an element of standing back
100%.
and being a bit detached and accepting awards in a way for what they are 100%. And accepting industry in a way for what it is. But it's an interesting observation. Do you remember the first time a piece you cut really hit? We've spoken about that, haven't we? You've actually spoken about the Hosier.
Yeah, that one. That hit for me. I think it depends on the context if it's something that hits for other people.
No, it's for you.
Yeah.
That was the one. So we've already spoken about that. Okay, editing can make or break a film, which I find fascinating, that an editor comes in and you can recut film, just that mindset, completely change it. What's your philosophy when you first sit down with raw footage? I'm imagining you've got quite a structured response to everything, or is that not the case?
It is and it isn't. I think I have like a set structure of the way that I work, but I think that's also because I was an assistant, and an assistant for people who working long form and short form. So when you start off being quite formulaic about the process and you work in a certain way with certain editors, it then you adopt those sort of styles. So I think that's, you know, as in terms of process, everyone always has a sort of different way of going about it, but it's usually sort of learned through ways that you've learned to do process with other people. A lot of the way that I approach the actual editorial is with my gut. So first instinct on anything. So I don't really, this is also controversial, I don't really like to sort of fine tooth comb things until after I've imagined what the body's like.
So you've gone through all the rushes, you've gone through everything.
Yeah.
And because for me, I'm always imagining that it must
yeah.
feel like you're overloaded with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you're overloaded, you're hit with all of this information,
yeah.
and then through that you've got a feeling on it, and it's not based upon the director or the client, it's just your own personal feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of take out how I think it should be done naturally as a response in terms of like, how would I want to watch this? Which is quite hard to explain, I suppose. But I kind of almost try and vision it as a finished piece through how I would want it to make somebody feel, and then actually go through the process of sort of working forwards from that.
It's really mad. It's really unusual, isn't it? It's not mad in a negative way, just like that's a really interesting way of thinking about work.
Yeah, the way
making how it makes you feel,
rather
than
main
the
thing.
structure of the story, the narrative itself, and how it's going to work.
A lot of
That's the only way it should be, because good work makes you feel, and bad work doesn't. Yeah. It's as simple as that. If there's no connection, you've missed the mark.
And I think a lot of it actually is like conversations with the director about their intention of emotion, because.
And just on that point, what would help directors understand better ways of communicating that?
Oh, I love that question.
Because I think that is a really interesting thing. If you're a director, what are the mistakes that some make? What are the mistakes people make consistently that they don't need to make? Or what would be a way of speaking to an editor? Because I guess that they choose you because they know your body of work. Yeah. And they sort of throw the stuff at you and go, right, that's it, because you're the next stage of the process to get to that end film. Yeah. And that's the way I look at it. They do amazing work. Let's go with that person. Let's see what they see through it. Yeah. But what would you say is something that would help the process or improve it?
The best collaborations I've had have been ones where there's a conversation up front about original intention, what went wrong, and how. The best collaborations I've had are with directors who are vulnerable with me straight out the gate about why they're making what they're making, what they want out of it, how they want it to make other people feel, how it makes them feel, why they're talking about a particular topic. All of those pieces of work have always been.
But those are quite challenging questions to ask, aren't they? I mean, why are they making the work? If you're making an ad for an obvious brand, let's say, well, how would they describe that? They say, why? You ask that, I mean, I don't know what I would say. What do people say? I'm making this because I'm trying to get here, or I'm making this because I need to pay the bills, or...
Yeah, but there's always... It's like, as a director, there's always more than that to it.
No, of course, but the point of making is like, it's quite a difficult question to answer.
It is, and I think a lot of that's why I try and create like vulnerability from me straight off the gate, but also like a comfortable space to be in. I hope that's always the aim, but it is hard questions to answer, and even if it is just, you know, I don't know, some football spot, or like something for
what
Cop
people
and
say
or whatever, it's like the conversations. There's always and I think the client wants it to feel like this, and I've attempted it like X. Okay. There's always some sort of way
that you can convey what we're trying to achieve here.
And a feeling doesn't need to be like sad, happy, like moving. Like, it doesn't have to be any of those things. It can be, I want it to be lively and energetic. I want it to be musically driven. I want it to be pacey. I want it to have arcs. I don't want it to be linear. Like, it's all about the emotion. To me, depicts
that,
like,
makes a lot of sense.
the
when
rhythm
you
and
start
the
saying
pace.
arcs, rhythm and pace. So that's the thing. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
But the baseline of that always comes out of, and I want it to be received like X.
Interesting.
And that's always the way that I try and work backwards from. Like, what is your final outcome?
Yeah.
What's everybody's final outcome? Because if you don't know that,
absolutely,
in its deepest form, then the nuances of the way that you approach it aren't going to make sense or follow through.
I think lots of people make ads and they don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Do you find that, interestingly?
Yeah, I do, and I think...
Does it surprise you how often you find that?
Yeah.
That people aren't able to immediately say, this is... I mean, there's obviously lots of different outcomes, obvious outcomes that people can have, but something more deeper, meaningful.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just, I need to do stuff that makes sense to me, and I need to make it feel like something, because then the way that I approach it makes sense in order to have a reason why. And maybe that's just, the way that my brain works. But I find that better pieces of work come out of that, 100%. Or they come out of, you get to the end sort of goal of it quicker in a way that feels more thought out, like, and considered.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's tiny changes and tweaks and the way that you might think about something or try and add something to it, to a piece in terms of style or approach, and if the underlying consideration of why or what the end goal is, you can't add those elements in the same way, because it would feel, why is that there? That's out of pocket. So it's like trying to string together the lines of thought in order to actually make it feel really considered and, almost feel like, then for me it's like personal Easter eggs. Even if, because not everyone's going to get it. Not everyone's going to feel the same way about it. But if your way of trying to output it is sort of considered and linear, then somebody else might experience the same thing. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and I love the way you're able to verbalise it.
It's the only way, I think that's the main way that I could explain the way that I like to work and I like to collaborate. And I think a lot of people go, oh, just do it like this. And I'm like, well, but that wouldn't make sense for this.
I think that's a lot to do with the way, as you said, that's the way your brain works.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a really interesting way of expressing it to other people who don't know, because you've got it exactly right. It's interesting.
But it changes everything, like the types of sound design you use, the style and genre of music, even if it's temp and you're having something composed, like all of the pacing. It like, to me, I feel like it gives me lots of answers.
Are you ever, on that basis, are you ever able to fit, when a job's done, or does it always go on?
Oh yeah, when
it's very clear in that respect, so you don't have this difficulty of it going on, knowing when to stop. Yeah, I think knowing when to stop is part of what we talked about before as well, knowing when it's your time to step off. And I also think that, like, I love doing sound stuff, but that's not my expertise, so I'm never gonna go push that too far, because at the end of the day, because you mentioned sound design, so that's what I was thinking, go to a whole nother
my port of call is to make sure that the concept's down and then the elevation is done once again moving forward with someone else's ideas, because otherwise what's the point?
Sure. All right. Here we go. We are in so you've worked across Agile, Nomad, and now Tenthree, where we're sitting, obviously.
Yeah.
How have these different edit houses shaped your process?
They're all totally different, I think, which was interesting.
What, from an outsider's perspective, what does that mean? Because, you know, I would assume you would just think editors, different houses, different places, same-ish. The editor themselves are the difference or the change. I mean, obviously there's a vibe.
Yes.
Where's cool? Where's where's a place that's doing the best work?
Yeah.
But you know, what does it mean?
Well, I think Agile ran mostly as a production company.
Yeah.
And then the editorial arm was sort of different, so the structure and process and the way that they worked was totally different. You know, I do pretty much all of my ingest and prep and online and delivery and moving everything around for jobs that I was also cutting. So I was so much more like involved in those jobs, which was such a good experience, because it helped me understand workflow, and I think gave me that, I guess, that empathy for everyone's position in it, especially from a post-production sort of standpoint, because it'd be a lot of like getting a bit tacky now, so I'll try and not make it super boring, but like from a basic workflow perspective, doing things in a certain way to help other people. So if it comes in and out, or from us to go to grade and come back, or mix to come back, and then we do some of the post but not all of the post, and we do some of the grade on certain things but not on everything. It's a lot of different technical workflow and process in order to get that to work for us but to also work for other people's workflows, and so I think it taught me a lot about working with other people like that, and how everyone works slightly differently, which was interesting. But yeah, so the structure there from an editorial perspective was different because I wasn't just cutting, and I was working quite closely with a lot of the directors, because even if I wasn't cutting for them, I'd see them, and I'd help them with other stuff. And then signing to Nomad was different because it was, at Nomad there weren't many other editors there, so it was like quite boutique-y, which I guess, I mean, Tenthree can't call themselves a boutique now, but they were at one stage, and so I think size of company differs as well. Like, it's just ever so slightly different vibe. I mean, they are all the same to some degree, but it's more about sort of workflow and process
and personality.
Yeah.
You can feel that when you go to places.
Yeah,
no.
100%.
So very different from Agile, Nomad. So Nomad and Tenthree are much more traditional.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Okay. Process and tools. You use Avid, Premiere, DaVinci and Final Cut. Do the tools shape your style, or is it all instinct?
Tools don't have any real change on stylistic approach at all. I wouldn't say. It's all about, you know, I think that's
frustrating you.
Yeah, I think it's all personality really. Like I've always said, like your USP is you, because no one's gonna approach it the same way or think the same way or whatever, and that's why like
anyone.
But it's also why, like, you know, certain directors like working with certain people because, you know, they get on with them on a personal level in that way, or
because you spend an enormous amount of time.
A lot. Yeah.
Just on that little point, what's the longest you've spent on an edit in a room with one other person, or is it on a job, let's say?
Gosh. I think mine and Rosie's short was quite long. Because we were doing commercials together at the same time, so for me, and you know, it's the longest I think I've spent with any other director really across multiple jobs.
Sure.
Because I'm doing all her commercial stuff, and then also doing evenings and weekends on the shore.
I'm talking about the 4 weeks. The one project.
I think it has to be that short.
And how long? Over a period of time, do you think? 6 months, 3 months?
Yeah. Between 6 and 9 months,
how long
on and off.
Piece?
15 minutes, I think it is. 13 and a half run time.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a long time.
Yeah.
How do you balance speed with craft when deadlines get tight? Do you find there's a minimum amount of time you're going to need on any job, or is it just completely different every time?
Kind of. It depends on the style of job.
Sure.
So, depends on, like, if it's heavily boarded, you know, from select to first assembly is a lot less than something that's documentary style. You know, if I have to actually sit and scrutinise rushes over like the last 5 years, then I need a lot more time up front. But I always think that you can always get something together within a period of time. It just depends on, you know, the quality of what you want your first sort of base cut to look like. I think you just adapt a bit.
Music and rhythm are everything. How do you find the beat of a piece? It's just natural. Just like,
I know that sounds like a really...
Well, everyone's got
their own
different
internal clock, and I think it's just something that I couldn't explain to you.
No, it's just a natural thing.
It just is, and the best way that I cut is just to allow that to actually happen and for it to feel right. I go a lot based on my gut and how things feel, and that's kind of the only answer for me, because
nothing else makes sense.
Nothing else makes sense.
Got it. Industry and people. You've judged APA and Creative Circle Awards. How does that influence your own work, or does it at all?
I think it makes me scrutinise my work more.
Interesting.
I think also seeing how other people, or especially having been on a panel with other editors, seeing how they scrutinise work. Scrutinise feels like the wrong word, because that feels like...
Well, they are.
They are, but it's like, that feels emotively driven in a negative light. It's not. It's constructive, for sure, and always feels constructive.
Judging.
Yeah.
It's judging.
But it
just is what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
judging.
totally.
I get what you're saying with the language, yeah.
But yeah, I think...
Just makes you more aware of where this is going.
I think it does, yeah.
Make you more competitive? Must do. In a way, subconsciously at least.
I think definitely subconsciously. I'm not sure I'm particularly competitive when it comes to it actually in that way.
As long as you get the connection. As long as the film connects, it doesn't matter.
No. And I think it's...
Also, it doesn't really work in our industry, like trying to win an award. You can only make the job that you were given as best as you can.
100%.
There's only so much you can do.
And there's only so much luck in terms of getting that particular job either.
And also,
you know, a lot of trajectories, you can't... You know, you can try and be as business minded as you want about it, but
it's a creative world and it makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Yeah. So
that's what people really don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one, and we've already brushed on this in a wonderful way. Mental health in post is a big topic.
Yeah.
How do you look after yourself and your creativity, especially with your diagnosis? I mean, you said already you've managed to step back and know when the time is right. So that must be a huge change. Otherwise, like you said, at college, you would never leave. You would just stay here.
Yeah.
And they'd have to kick you out.
Yeah, I think I went through a lot of like, I think a lot of people think that I kind of, you know, zapped up really quickly on a trajectory, but I was doing a lot of work in the background that people weren't aware of. So like I did, you know, I went through a stint of like 4 years where I was genuinely in complete burnout and working all the time. Like it was such a hyperfixation in hindsight, I couldn't talk about anything else other than the job at all. To the point where like I lost a couple of friends who weren't in the industry because they didn't understand
The intensity
why I
of it.
literally couldn't be around for anything. And, you know, I mean, I wouldn't, I've missed weddings and christenings and all sorts because the job came first. It was always that the job came first, and it was all I spoke about. And so I've been through that scenario sort of on my drive to get up in the industry. And it burnt me out so much that I was very mentally unwell. And a lot of people know the story about it, but because I've been very open about it, because I think it's very important too. But it's been quite a learning curve to make sure that I'm taking a step back, whilst also trying to not feel guilty about not having the same trajectory or same growth, because I actually want to, you know, have a nice life outside of also loving my job. And not have my job be absolutely everything there is to say about me. But yeah, the burnout is real, and you've got to be really careful with it, because I think it's much better now than it was when I first started, because I'm in that weird like middle ground category, I suppose. But when I first started, there was a lot of your worth is in how much you want to work, not how smart you work. What you needed to do to get up was trickier. It's a little bit more 90s-esque. I think it's a lot better now, but I think making sure that you set good boundaries. Like, I have structured hours a lot of the time, which people have actually never had a problem with, no matter what the job is. Obviously, I understand, you know, you go into overtime, you have to do a little bit of extra work, directors need a little bit more, agency need a little bit more, that's all fine. But I have rules about needing that as much in advance as possible, and also only working, like, having attendance from certain times of the day, because I want to make sure also that my assistants get to go home on time and have a life.
Yeah.
Because I didn't for a long time. And so by me sort of setting those boundaries and having that regulation, it does mean that I think people respect me more for it, but also means that everyone's fresher and everyone does a better job.
Yeah. It's really interesting how things have changed so dramatically. I remember
it's such a shift.
People used to just live their job, like you said.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was no discussion about that. Family, you mentioned weddings and christenings, family events, anything was completely secondary to the job. No discussion. And I thought there was a really fascinating insight into our industry, because you're kind of doing something that you love that can be incredibly creative in certain instances. But you can take it to the nth degree and make it way more than it is. So that you hear this saying all the time of, it's just an advert.
Yeah.
But people would forget that.
Yeah.
And other people externally outside the industry just
don't get it.
Understand at all. And rightly so, because
Yeah.
it is just advertising in lots of ways. So the long form, the film stuff, you can not lie to yourself, but you can play another game with yourself and say, this is something more creative, more artistic, and justify it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. Okay, that was excellent. What's one misconception about editors you wish directors or producers understood?
What's one misconception? I don't know. I feel like everyone always used to say, oh, everyone thinks that we're all introverts, and we're not all introverts. But that's like the most boring thing ever. Let me try and think of something interesting. I think a lot of people think that we're salaried. and not freelance because we're associated with a house, which is interesting. Like I've had a lot of conversations with people and they're like, oh, do you like, but you, and how does that work? So I have a lot of conversations about that.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I mean obviously certain houses run it slightly differently and there's certain things, but it's all kind of done off percentage, similarly so to directors and producers, but then like a large majority of the percentage facilitates you know, being here.
Yeah, being in
so
Soho.
Like it covers your...
Being in Golden Square, when I was walking up I was like, God, I'm amazed it's still here.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. But yeah, it comes out of like part of our fee. So like because I've had so many conversations, especially with producers, where they're like, oh, but we're paying you X. And I'm like, you're not paying me X. So it's interesting because I think there's a lot of chat in editorial about budgets and how we always get cut first and blah blah blah, but I think a lot of that's because people don't understand how it works, where the money goes, what the breakdowns are and how it looks, and then you know, the fact that people are really not going to like me talking about this, but the fact that for example in a commercial setting, agencies will get given a fee for editorial that is not what editorials see or know about, because production companies put the markup there more than they do in the production, especially with new directors, especially if they're trying to push to make a better job out of it, blah blah blah. But yeah, so a lot of conversations I have with people, generally that's a misconception, is that we're all freelancers.
Interesting. Okay, quick fire / fun. I hate that word. So something a bit different now. So best note you've ever had from a director?
Ooh. I'm trying to try and think about something that has made something better, rather than it be like, I really liked it when they said it was good. Now in my brain I'm like, God, I've done so many jobs I forgot that existed. Trying to think about things this.
It's so easy to ask a question and then you have to go and then answer it, I can imagine. We can come back to it if you want a bit more time to think about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, this is an easier one, I'm sure. Worst.
The worst note I've ever got from someone was... And
what is the worst note you can give to an editor? That's fascinating.
I was asked, could you make it a bit more shinky shonky?
Shinky shonky. That is awesome.
Yeah. And I said, of course, no problem. Can you please explain to me what shinky shonky is?
And what was shinky shonky?
It was a long time ago now. I'm not sure we ever got to the bottom of it really, but I...
Pace.
Yeah.
Make it better.
Yeah.
Shinky shonky.
Shinky shonky.
That is fucking dreadful. Okay, and if you could cut any project next, feature, music video or campaign, this is really challenging obviously, what would it be? I mean, is that in the past tense? I don't even know why that's there.
If I could magic a job and be like, cool, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do something... I miss doing doc style stuff.
Okay.
They're an absolute bugger because it's a lot of work. I love getting my teeth stuck into it, and like I feel like it's one of the things that I'm more natural at because of the way that my brain works and the process of the way that I like to do it.
Interesting.
Music doc stuff would be mega. Like I'd love to do a feature length music doc. That would be...
That's your thing.
Epic.
Oh, right.
By the end of it, I'd probably be crying, but but I know that I'd come out of it and be like, that was epic.
All right. Do you ever look at projects and go, wish I'd edited that? Movies, for example. any films that you think you've seen, you think, I wish I'd edited, not because does an editor think like that even?
I think a lot of editors do. I think
is there certain directors, like, you know, Dune movies is your thing, you know, Denis Villeneuve, or is it someone, you know, is it other, you know, I'm just using an obvious one as an example. Do you want to do those films, you know, Christopher Nolan films, is those, you know, but do you see what I mean, like, what are you...
I'm like not big on movies.
That's fair enough.
Which I think everyone thinks is a little bit insane. Like, people are always like, I can't believe that you cut well and you haven't seen like anything. And I'm always embarrassed when people are like I've had references from people and I've gone fuck, and I've written it down and I've literally gone home and I've watched like as much of it as I can in the evening to like get it. So that I've got the style.
Yeah, but it's easy that, isn't it? That's
mean, it's research.
Yeah.
At least I care enough to do the research, I suppose. But like I used to love cinema a lot as a kid. I think the sort of euphoria of coming out of the cinema and that was what was big for me.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.